Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jim.
So, a really popular trend among podcasters right now is talking about conspiracy theories. What would you think about trying something like that on today's episode?
Huh. You mean like the whole conspiracy about us really landing on the moon?
Well, along those lines, but I was thinking something a lot more musically oriented.
Oh, like the fact that Elvis was part of it and really landed on the moon. And it's because he really could have done that because he's not really dead. Instead, he went up to the moon. He's living up there in some kind of Quonset hut that was put up by Apollo 12, and Jim Morrison is with him. I dare you to go dig up their graves and find out there's nothing there.
Oh, my, Steve. Okay. Let's steer that in a completely different direction, and we'll put a pin in that theory and come back to it in a future episode. How does that sound?
All right, but inquiring minds want to know, Jim.
All righty. Well, welcome once again, everyone, to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast, where today it's not just two guys, it's two guys and Katie joining us to talk about records. Katie, by the way, is a nepotism alert, is my daughter, and she is a record collector, and she is a fantastic, independent journalistic thinking mind when it comes to stuff. How's that sound?
Thank you. I don't mind the nepotism label. It helps a little bit.
Well, my name is Jim, and I own a record store.
I'm Steve, a record collector.
And Katie?
I'm Katie, and my dad owns a record store.
That's a good way to put it, which means that you are, by extension, a record collector. So on today's show, we are going to explore a little bit of a conspiracy theory of sorts regarding vinyl and big box stores. Katie had brought this to my attention about a month or so back when, oddly enough, she contacted me to order a Noah Kahan album that's coming out later on, and we were talking about the different versions that are available. And then Katie texted me back and said, this is an odd little thing, odd little trend I've found. So if you folks want to stick with us, we will get to that. It's an interesting one, isn't it, kiddo?
It's overly interesting because it's not only just like these different variants of vinyl. There's like added extra songs that Target itself, sorry, spoiler alert, it's Target. Target itself is holding back from these like albums from like the streaming services, from the actual vinyl, and exclusivizing them in the Target exclusive vinyl records. So it's just making everyone's life harder.
Okay, then. So we will dive into that theory from Katie coming up here on the show in a little bit. Plus our weekly vinyl pickups and additions to the collection. We'll get to those here in a bit too. But before that, if you can hang with us for a little bit, please. Steve and I are going to talk about last week's Sweet 16, if you will, of our March Vinyl Madness. We have narrowed it down to the 8 decades. Correct, Steve?
We have. Yes. Now, mano y mano on them decades. But yeah, it was some pretty interesting results. Some not a surprise whatsoever. Vegas already is putting odds on who the winner is going to be.
There we go.
It's out there, folks. So yeah, feel free to gamble and send the money to us, and
Sure.
we'll take care of the bookie.
You folks have voted. You've made your voice heard, and as Steve mentioned, there's a couple things that I was surprised about, but it's I think a fairly decent representation of the 16 albums we put forward to represent those 8 decades. And again, if you're just joining us on this and you're curious, Steve and I are going through an endeavor to determine which is the best decade for music, the 50s through the 2020s. We've now got them narrowed down to just those 8 albums represented. So as we go forward, you don't necessarily have to feel like you're voting for the album itself, but continue voting for the decade. How does that sound?
Yeah, but if you like that album, because especially if it's mine, I would, because we did split evenly 4-4 on this one.
We did, and I should mention too that when we get to the bracket, you'll see the matchups. Rather than randomizing them, we decided to go from the outward in. So the 50s go up against the 2020s. I think it's going to make for an interesting advancement as we go forward on this.
We'll also find what our average age of our viewers are.
I think I already know that, but let's take a look at the results really quickly, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. Let's start with the 1950s here, Steve. I've called up the graphics for the 50s and the 60s. In the 50s, John Coltrane trounces Marty Robbins by 67 some odd percent to 32 point something percent. That means that the John Coltrane album, Blue Train Jazz, is going to represent the 1950s going forward.
Perfect album to represent the 50s. Absolutely.
Not a surprise to you?
Nope.
Right.
Not at all.
Also, not a surprise in the 1960s. I feel a little upset. I'm wearing the Floyd shirt today, even, Steve. But Pink Floyd massively outpaced by Led Zeppelin 2. Piper at the Gates of Dawn is a great album to represent the 60s, but I think it's a little too spacey out there. Yes, Katie?
I have to disagree with you. I think the Led Zeppelin sound encapsulates the 60s and the 70s enough that it far more outpaces Pink Floyd. I'm so sorry to say.
I agree with you. Led Zeppelin was my pick, right? Not Floyd. But
okay.
Steve, not a surprise?
I just can't, I'm telling you, where are the Floyd fans? Damn you all.
Well, Zeppelin 2, and I think we covered this last week. I mean, it's a great bridge between their bluesy start. There's a couple of blues-esque tunes on there. Hard rock, the birth of heavy metal, just the tinges of heavy metal coming in there in the late 60s. So that is, I think, a good representation moving forward, isn't it, Steve? So next up, then, let's look at the results from the 1970s. They went up 70s and 80s. This one, not much of a surprise at all. Hold on there, and let's see here. Yep. The first one is a surprise. I'm sorry. Rush 2112. Beaten, but not by much, by Television and Marquee Moon from 1977. So Rush is out of the running, Steve. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, I'm just glad that viewers do listen to really cool music.
Well, now hold on.
Yes.
But so in my mind, what this means, Steve, is that the 70s is going to be represented by punk rock, and I think that's fairly accurate. There's a lot of great rock, but punk came into its own in the 70s. The 1980s, this was a tough one as well. Let's see, 57% to 42 some percent. Prince and the Revolution, Purple Rain, meaning the 1980s will be represented by, I'm hesitant to call Prince pop, but I don't know if I can go there. Top 40 at the very least.
Well, but he was a heck of a guitar player, man.
Yeah.
That guy could put out licks like no one else. For 5'2", he was just a giant with that stuff. So he really was, to me, the 80s, that was it. He gets into the 90s and it got strange.
Well, speaking of the 90s, here's where things get even more interesting. Let's see. Alanis Morissette beats My Bloody Valentine to represent the 90s. This was a bigger one, 63% to 36 point something or other. So Alanis Morissette will represent the 90s, that angsty alternative music of the 90s.
Yeah. I'm not too surprised. I mean, my Bloody Valentine is not for everyone. It is for me, but it's not everyone's cup of tea, shall we say.
Katie, I saw you nodding at Alanis.
I just think that it's if you ask someone to name like a big artist of the 90s, they'd name like a bunch of like bands, like boy bands, and then they name Alanis Morissette. So I think it's only fair. Well,
and again, we left Nirvana off on purpose because we explained that stuff last week, but I think that's a good representative for the 90s. The 2000s, White Stripes absolutely taking out Mumford & Sons. Sorry about that, Katie.
It's fine. They're from Michigan. You guys are a Michigan record store. What can I expect?
81% to Mumford & Sons, 19%.
Okay, that hurts a little. Okay, sorry. Off topic a tiny bit. I had someone dog sitting for us who is one of she's 19 or so. And when Mumford & Sons was on SNL, she was like, they're so vintage. I was like, excuse me? I was like, I'm not that old.
20 vintage years going back there. Steve, is that a surprise to you, or you were a proponent of Jack White and the Stripes?
It's not. I think White Stripes, again, they were so big in the aughts, and they were coming out with song after song, and that album was the one that finally got critics and everyone going, "Oh wow, this is good stuff."
So now let's go into the 2010s and 2020s, and the winners representing those decades include Beck handily beating Lana Del Rey 76% to 23 some odd percent through there. So the decade of the 2010s belongs to Beck, even though he'd been around for 20 plus.
Well, I even voted for Beck, so.
Okay, but how many of your listeners have listened to Lana Del Rey?
Probably not a lot,
Not
except
a lot.
for me.
Exactly.
But here's the problem. I was looking at between the teens and the 20s, and I'm looking at the albums and go, almost every album I buy, no one knows who the heck they are. It's way off mainstream.
And yeah, we did have to kind of limit those to albums in our collection, but Beck will represent the 2010s, I think, very well going into these final 8. And then finally, Wet Leg versus Modu Mokhtar. Steve, I am sorry to say Wet Leg, 78% to 21% plus on there. The decade's just over half over, and I think Wet Leg is a good representation of that.
Come on, it's African blues. We gotta love the African blues. I can't believe that. When Jim picked it, I had Wet Leg. Oh, okay. Well, that's probably the only mainstream thing I had too.
And they are mainstream. We were talking about this. How would you describe Wet Leg's music in the 2020s? It's not punk. I don't even think it's post-punk. It's not pop. It's got catchy hooks like pop, but man, it's tough for me to nail down what to call that music.
Pop rocks. It pops in your mouth and it gets in your mouth and it just kind of pops all over, man.
Stuck there. Katie, any thoughts on Wet Leg and what kind of music they are?
Yeah, it's in my beach rock playlist.
Beach rock
from Spotify.
Okay. Beach rock.
And I sort of agree with that.
There's a new one for us, Steve. Beach rock.
All right, we'll have to work on that genre next.
All right, folks. So here is what your final 8 look like as we go forward in March Vinyl Madness, representing the 8 decades we have and going from the outer edges inward. That means John Coltrane in the 1950s goes up against Wet Leg from the 2020s. That is the first round of this 8. That's going to be a tough one because, folks, I don't know. It's going to be jazz versus beach rock.
Yeah.
Let's see. The second round of this, then, the 60s versus the 2010s takes Led Zeppelin 2 up against Beck and Morning Phase. I don't want to make predictions, but if I were a betting person, Steve.
Yeah, I know. I know where Vegas is going with that.
There we go.
So, yeah.
The 70s, the surprise television and punk rock going up against the White Stripes from the 2000s in there.
That will be interesting. I think that's a very interesting one to see how that goes.
And I think probably the most interesting is we're putting the 80s up against the 90s in this bracket because those are the two in the center. So that means Prince and the Revolution and Purple Rain up against Alanis Morissette and Jagged Little Pill. That, I think, is going to be the closest and probably toughest of this part of the bracket.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that, Cato?
I think that one, if anything, is going to be 50-50.
So, okay. Until the Georgia votes are counted, then we'll lose it in there.
Yeah.
So, folks, what you can do to vote in this final 8 is look for the link. It's a Google poll, and it'll be in the description of both the BLEAVE episode and then subsequently the Spotify episodes. Just look for that link, click on it, you can vote, and just let's go forward with these 8 and see which decade is the best. The link will also be in the YouTube description. You can go ahead and click on that when you're done listening to us today and watching us today, and make sure your vote counts. So which is the best decade of music? I think Steve and I made ours fairly clear. Katie, let's have you chime in. You are a millennial. So where do you sit? You are an old soul millennial.
I'm not a millennial.
Aren't
I'm
you?
Gen Z.
You're Gen Z?
I'm Gen Z. I am at the very, very beginning of Gen Z.
Okay.
I'm holding on to that dear life.
But you're an old soul because you grew up in a household with a lot of records, and we used to sit in the
grew up in a
basement.
household with a lot of records.
Yep.
And when I voted, I was very happy with the 90s. I was very happy with the 2000s, obviously, but also the 2020s was very good. And most of my music right now, I would say most of my music is fairly modern. I'm still top 40 sometimes. I'm still, you know, you're gonna see all the records I picked out. They're still pretty modern.
Okay.
Not mine.
And we'll find out where our viewers and listeners are as well. But please, folks, make sure you get out and vote. We'll give you an update next week.
And if you're in line when the polls close, stay in line.
There you go. The poll will be open till Sunday. Well, not Sunday, till Saturday evening. How's that? Because I got to compile and get the graphics ready for Sunday morning's recording. So that is where we go. Please take part in our fun little Vinyl March Madness brackets here. And any betting that you put in, if you feel you have a vinyl gambling problem, please contact the mayor of the vinyl community for more information on how to get
That's right. For a fee.
For a fee. If you feel that you are being pressured by the vinyl community to pick up things that you see featured in the vinyl community, then we go from there. All right, so let's move forward with this. We'll get to our main topic here in just a couple of minutes. But as we do it each and every week on the show, we like to show off our most recent vinyl pickups and additions to the collection. And Katie, you did bring a couple with you, correct? You want to show those off? And
I did. They're not my most recent. Well, a couple of them are my most recent. One of them I just picked up because I was like, oh, let's show it off. My most recent, and my dad's gonna be mad at me for this, but I do have an 11-month-old. She's turning 1 year in like 3 weeks, which is crazy to think about, and I don't want to think about that again. But I got Mumford & Sons Prize Fighter, and it's not opened, and I would love to open it with you guys right now because I want to see what it looks like.
So the brand new Mumford & Sons, and that wasn't so much a pickup as it was a send to.
It was a send to because I don't have time to go. Well, also the record store here in Appleton was moving that week.
Yep.
They were closed that whole week, and they were moving down the road, so I couldn't even go if I wanted to.
Eroding Winds Record Shop is a great one if you're ever in Appleton. I've stopped there before. It's a cool little store. All right,
They're cool, and they have just got so big.
So Mumford & Sons,
such a big space.
Mumford & Sons Prize Fighter, is it a return to glory for them after Rushmere?
Oh yeah, it's really good.
And you got the white vinyl. Very cool.
It's so good. It's a lot like their old stuff. I personally kind of liked Rushmere a lot. I know a lot of people didn't, but I do like this one a lot more.
So that's Prize Fighter.
Than I liked.
Okay.
Yes, Prize Fighter.
All right. What else you got?
I also brought, set this over here. I also ended up bringing my daughter's favorite album, Noah Kahan, live at Fenway Park.
That must be played constantly, I hear.
It is played constantly. We have our own little Spotify playlist for her nap time because she listens to this album during her nap every single day. And if I also showed you that this one wasn't open because I got it right after she was born, I would be the rep.
We'll take a word. Okay, but it's Noah Kahan performing live.
It's Noah Kahan performing live at Fenway Park, and he was born in Boston, or not, he was not born in Boston. He lives in Boston, and he's like a New England boy. And so you could just, the most of this album is the crowd singing along, and it is just so beautiful, and it's so fun. And I can sing like you know how when at concerts, like they just talk to the audience? Mm-hmm. I've listened to this album so much in the last year that I can tell you every word that he says between his songs.
It's an audience participation album.
It really is. It really, really, truly
and that's also,
is
that a triple LP? I believe that is a triple
It's
LP.
a triple LP.
Wow, it's a lot of music.
It's a long, long album. And then finally, because I'm going to talk about Taylor Swift today, I have one of her folklore albums. So she has, once again, many, many variants of albums. This one is Long Pond Studio. And Long Pond Studio is important because I'm like, no, it is. Yeah, this is Aaron Dessner's studio. And Aaron Dessner is her producer. And this is just quiet.
One of the many
Recording.
versions of that one that came
One
out.
of the many versions of songs that she puts out to block the charts.
The variants.
I respect it. It's beautiful, like smoke gray vinyl.
All right. And
I love it.
Steve,
It's very pretty. I like it a lot.
earlier, Steve, you mentioned that this is a first for our show.
Yeah, there it is. Yes.
I feel
So
like all these might be firsts.
Well,
yeah, no, it kind of definitely is the first. Mumford and Sons, maybe not, but yes.
No, we mentioned it because Mumford & Sons is in my collection, so that's how it made the
Yeah.
bracket. But the
Exactly.
older
Oh.
stuff. This is the first time Taylor Swift has been shown. We talk about her once in a while.
Yeah. Once in a while.
Once in a while. All right. Cool pickups, kiddo. You need to listen to them now when you get more time.
I know. Listen, I don't trust her yet around the actual record player. She still takes her little toy one and just like throws the records.
All right, Steve, what records are you throwing around today?
All right. The first one is from the group Mono that I've talked a lot about, and this is a live version of their last studio album, which was called Oath. And this is the final concert they did for Oath in Japan, because it is a Japanese group. It is a
Trifold.
Trifold. Yep, it's a 3-album set, just like Noah Khan, except not in Boston. It's in Tokyo. And I don't know whatever color that is. Actually, I opened one they called that beer, and another artist called that beer. I don't know if they call that. I think they call it gold.
It's brownish.
Yes, brownish. Well, we won't go into that one then. And picture book for those that don't like to read. You get pictures. Oh, there is some words. So for readers too, I guess. Very nice. I love the album. They did Oath, and to hear this live, wonderful. They had the whole orchestra. Beautiful.
Cool.
Then this came out last year. Balloon, Balloon, Balloon from the Sharp Pins. And this has 21 songs on it. Can you believe that? It is like 60s psych rock, psych pop. I mean, you would swear to God it was done in the 60s.
Huh.
This
But it's newer.
That's just, yeah, it's brand new. It came out last year. Sharp Pins. I believe he's out of Scotland, I think. I can't say for sure now. Maybe not. So, whatever. But yeah, it's really, I've heard about it on the VC. People were praising it. I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. It is really pop psych. I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'll go back and buy his other stuff because I can only handle so much, but this was very, very good. And
even the cover screams 60s psych rock.
Oh, doesn't it? Oh my God. And 21 songs. So they kind of go quick and fast. Very good. This was an interesting one. The Mutants, the OCs. And this is their very first album. This is a repress of their first album. They're out of Brazil. Psych from Brazil. And it's in words that I can't say. Just black vinyl. Nothing special there. Nothing in there. I just happened to see the cover and I go, well, isn't that trippy? Mutantis. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I wasn't blown away by it, but I enjoyed it.
Is it garage rock-ish?
No, very, very much psych.
Okay,
very much
straight up
psych.
Okay.
Then Demented. And this is Demented Are Go. This is a repress of their first album, The Sickness and In Sickness and in Health. Now, right there's the lead singer, which he does pretty good in drag, I think. I think he did really good. There's what they are like. This is Psychobilly from England. So, how I learned about this, there we go. He has a hell of a haircut. I was I bought some. I can't remember what album it was, but there was it was a female vocalist, and she's singing, and there's just this rough, gravelly voice singing as backup, and then as part of it. I go, that is such an interesting voice. What is it? And so I check on it, and it's the lead singer here, which is his name is Mark Phillips, singing. And I go, okay. So I check in on it, and he's psychobilly. It was on that Hillbillies on the
the sampler.
That one of the group from Switzerland. You just sent me.
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
yes. I recall it, but can't remember their name right now.
He sings on that, and it's just like because he's rockabilly too. He does rockabilly, psychobilly, and so I thought I'm just going to go back and grab that first one. They had reissued it, and this thing's a hoot. It's good psychobilly out of England. It was pretty phenomenal.
Just so you folks know, there is a marked difference between rockabilly and psychobilly music. Don't get them confused.
Yes, there is. Yeah,
We've never heard of beach rock before.
No, we haven't heard that. But he does do bebop, a loo bop. But then we got frenzied beat, pickled and preserved, transvestite blues, vibrate, rubber love, nuke. So yeah, we got all the hits on here.
Taylor Swift will cover that eventually.
The final one was an EP about a show from Gary Newman, and this came out, I believe, in 2018. And Gary Newman has just look at that pretty cool vinyl. He's just gotten into that industrial, and so you have more of that industrial feel that I really am liking what I've heard on newer Gary Newman music. So I was pretty excited to see this in a record store and thought it needs a home. And so I took it home with me after I did pay for it.
Oh, good.
That's what I got, Jim.
All right, let me cruise through mine real quick here. I just have a few to show off. Steve, I feel kind of weird about this one. Actually, I feel weird about a couple of them here. I
bought them, but I feel weird.
I'm going to say this as often as I can. I am not a Moody Blues completist, but I didn't have this one, The Other Side of Life. It was not in my collection, and one showed up with the hype sticker on it and everything still. This was their mid-80s, 86, yep, with a more poppy feel to this, and not simply the older psych Moody Blues stuff, but Your Wildest Dreams is on here, which is just kind of a floaty pop song.
So wait, just 1 second. I am not a Moody Blues completist, but I didn't have this one. That seems kind of what a completist would say. But I didn't have that one, so I need to have. Katie, would you agree with that? Doesn't that sound
also,
like
that one's not open, so I'm not the only one who's not opening her records.
Oh. It's open. It just has the shrink on. The fast hard rule here in the store is if the shrink is on and it still has a hype sticker, and the shrink hasn't damaged the cover, then the shrink stays on. Yeah. So that's kind of the way to look at it. I don't know. This one is close to damaging the cover. It just came in. I have to give a better look at this. And Steve, I think I mentioned this to you too, and maybe we'll talk about this in the next week or so. I did pick up a new collection of over 1,000 records earlier in the week. It was an adventure and a half. I'll fill you in on it down the line, but that may be something to talk about next week because I'm barely getting through them right now because we're running up on Record Store Day proper here. But yeah, the Moody Blues added in, that came out of that collection. So,
and there's probably some more Moody Blues so you can complete your collection, Jim.
I said I didn't have that one, which means by default I probably have others, most others. All right, here's the other one that this is going to fall so just smack dab into the guilty pleasures. Not a completist, although I have one other album of theirs. Our friend Abby was ordering from, and this comes into play with the next one I'm going to show too. She was ordering from a place online. They gave her a coupon. She asked if I wanted anything, and I started looking through their available catalog. Stuff that's not available to me through the record store. Potential spam kicking in there. Not available to me through the record store, so I purchased online. And that's Smash Mouth and their Astro Lounge. This is great, just fun, 90s-ish. When did that come out originally? I'm trying to think of when that was. But
95?
Yeah, the early 2000s, I think was it, because this has got
It
All
makes it
Star
Gen
on it.
Z.
Yep. It's got All Star on it. I just want to see All Star, the big one. Can't Get Enough of You, Baby on here. Then the Morning Comes. When these guys first came out, I did some part-time gigs at a radio station doing news, and it was All Star was brand new, and Then the Morning Comes. And the DJ was trying to compare these guys to the Doors, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think I called him out on that. So just because they've got an organ playing in the background does not automatically mean they're like the Doors, but still fun stuff. So Astro Lounge, this is a double LP, so it's an expanded version. It is on a very nice looking green vinyl on here. And like I said, I've got their other album that came out on Record Store Day, Purple, on the second one. So very cool. And it's fun music to get into once in a while, even if it's got that weird, that early 2000s pop vibe to it. Now, the real reason go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Smash Mouth, do they play The End?
No, that would be an interesting one. Well, the lead singer didn't he die? I think the lead singer died last year or the year before.
Did he?
All right. So I don't think we're going to get the renewal or on that.
That's
okay.
So
now
there's the only Smash Mouth you need.
Yep. The other main reason that I ordered through this online one was because I was surprised by a release that I've owned a bootleg of, because it's never been reissued since the original one, and the originals are way up there, from a very favorite movie of mine, from Pump Up the Volume. The soundtrack, various artists to Pump Up the Volume. And for years, I've had a bootleg of this on yellow vinyl. It was just a single sleeve jacket. Very, very bare bones, but it was the music, which was, I think, kind of important. And to my knowledge, this had not been reissued officially until it showed up in this website. So I'm like, well, I think I'll get the official one and pass along the bootleg. But this one even comes out into a gatefold with kind of some scenes and shots from the music, or from the movie rather. And the album itself is on very nice looking bright neon green vinyl. This is a very cool soundtrack. You know, we've talked about soundtracks before, and I don't know if I showed this one, but it's got Concrete Blonde doing Leonard Cohen's Everybody Knows, a very just drawn out slow on there. If you're familiar with the original Cohen version of that. Aaron Neville is on here. Liquid Jesus, the Pixies doing Wave of Mutilation. Bad Brains doing an absolutely faithful recover of Kick Out the Jams from the MC5, complete with the non-brothers and sisters version intro of that. Above the Law, it's got a hip-hop song in there. Soundgarden, Sonic Youth, the Cowboy Junkies. And because the CD in the original version of this album did not have an artist by the name of Chagall Guevara doing Tale of the Twister, but it's on this one. So very cool to have.
It does not have the song Pump Up the Volume. Pump up the volume. No. Dance.
No, it does not. I'm trying to remember when that came out and if this movie predated this. Because this movie was mid-90s. Yeah.
Katie has her hand up.
Yes, Katie.
Yes, Katie.
1990, this movie came out. Yes.
I'd like to point out something that I have heard literally every song on this album because you played it all the time in the car on your iPod. But I have never seen this movie. I didn't know this album was from a soundtrack.
Really? Okay.
Until you just said it right now.
Back in 1990, your mother and I saw this in the theater. It's about a kid in high school in probably, I don't know, Texas or Arizona or something like that, who is just disassociated with everything. And he starts a pirate radio station, which causes a little mini revolution in the town. And after we watched the movie, again...
so it's like UHF?
Yes, but with radio and no Weird Al doing stuff. But... we left the movie theater, and this is when we were both working radio and television. And your mom looked over to me and she goes, "Don't you even think about it," meaning starting a pirate radio station, which had been on my mind from time to time, but this solidified it.
You still think about this?
I do, but the internet has changed it. I could start one now and not worry about the FCC chasing me down.
True.
Just the RIAA wanting their cut. So, all right, folks. As we do each and every week with our pickups and some of the songs that we talk about throughout, we will put together a Spotify playlist so you can listen in. And maybe I'll even put a link on this so Katie can go finally watch the movie if it's out there. but you need to check that out if you can. But the link to the Spotify playlist will be in the description of all of the versions of our episode on the BLEAVE Network and on the YouTube channel itself. So check that out when you do get a chance. Okay, onward to our main subject at hand today. And to kind of set this up, I send Katie records once in a while when she asks. So there's this new release coming up. And this was another Noah Kahan release that is coming. Do you remember when this one's coming out, his new album?
March. No, April. Oh, it's April 13th.
April
maybe?
something.
It's
So
right after my daughter's birthday.
Gotcha. So the new Noah Kahan's coming out, and Katie contacted me, texted me, said, "Can you get a hold of this for me, please?" And then the conversation started, well, which version? There was an indie exclusive version, the standard version on there. And once you'd said the indie exclusive version, then this kind of set your mind into motion looking up am I getting this correct? Some other versions of this album that popped up. And then there began a little train of thought. Now, I'm going to set this up a little bit. Katie has been involved in music. She used to go to record stores with me all the time when she was much younger. We would do record store day in Ann Arbor. We'd hit the big ones there, Wazoo, and I forget the other one down there. We'd go to East Lansing to Flat Black and Circular, and then we started the one here. So Katie's no stranger to record stores and picking things up, and she knows about the different versions of them coming in. But as you did more research into this Noah Kahan, you dropped me another text, and you said, "I can't believe this. I'm seeing a pattern." And this leads us into the discussion of a conspiracy theory. And sorry, folks, this isn't going to be anything as juicy as Elvis faked the moon landing with Jim Morrison, or Paul McCartney is not Paul McCartney or who he is. Those are always fun to talk about. But this one's, I think, a little more grounded in what we as record collectors now and currently, and what we're hoping for younger people to get involved in record collecting, are dealing with. And that is this overabundance of multiple variations of a record. Steve, you and I have talked about this a lot too. The standard version, the indie exclusive version, I'm not going to argue, it makes it a little bit nice because it's reserved for stores like us. But Katie, you found out that there's a lot deeper. We've been dealing with big box store versions, Walmart versions, Barnes & Noble versions, and Target versions of stuff. Tell me what you found when you started digging into this Noah Kahan release.
Okay, so specifically Target versions have been sort of doing more with exclusive songs. And what happened with the Noah Kahan version is, well, I told you my daughter's favorite album is the Live at Fenway. And there are going to be, so sorry, there's going to be 2 new songs from Live at Fenway on the Target exclusive Noah Kahan album. And I can't listen to them on Spotify, and I can't get them on the new record. They're just on the Target exclusive vinyl. And so I would have to spend my money at Target in order to hear these new songs.
So you did some digging into that further. Now, let me hold on. So you'd have to really go a little bit further to get that. But let me back things up a little bit and talk about what some of the variations are. Now, the indie exclusives, when we get those, it's usually, not always, but I think probably 99% of the time, just a color variant. Everything else is the same. The content is the same. The vinyl is just a different color. And Steve, I think that you notice this a lot with online purchases as well. There's like an online merchant or band exclusive version.
And it's gotten to the point now where we do 200, then they change the color, another 200. Then another 200. And so you get a new album and suddenly there's like 20 different types of it. And then you go, well, which one's the best?
They'll do these short runs. But back to the big box side of things. So you, in order as a Noah Kahan fan, would need to purchase not only the regular version that you want, the indie exclusive version, but then you'd have to go and get the Target exclusive to get those extra songs.
Mm-hmm. But then it brings to question, like, why would I purchase the indie exclusive version when I could just get the one at the big box store? Well, I would want the indie exclusive version because I want to support my local record store, obviously. But then I don't get the extra songs. And so there's this weird, need to buy from the big box stores and the sort of exclusion of the smaller record stores. And so that's sort of what I want to talk about today. Is how did Target get this crazy, weird monopoly on not just exclusive records, but exclusives on songs specifically? that make these records more desirable.
And it's not something that's new. This goes back many, many, many years. And Steve, you had mentioned even in the CD era with Kmart, you guys, when you worked for the Kmart Corporation, fought to get these types of things.
Yeah, it's huge. It costs a company a lot of money to get exclusives with an artist, but it's important. I remember we were trying to get Leanne Rimes when she first started. This is the early '90s, and we were able to get an exclusive contract with her, which means she had to come to our meetings too, and sign autographs. But it was you would. It's what you got to do. But we would go out and you were always trying to get an artist to get something exclusive. Now, this is before all the craziness of exclusivity has happened now, with all the different variants and everything. But even then, a lot of times it might mean we would get the CD a week before anybody else. That was a big part of it. There could be extra tracks on there that would also be happening. We saw more of it in the early '90s when Kmart was the biggest, but then Walmart took over and pretty much sucked up all the artists, So, but yeah, it's a big part, and it does cost a retailer a ton of money, and the artists can make out like a bandit on it.
Now, that's just part of it, though. With the compact discs, you're looking at something that even then, in the 90s and 2000s, was a little easier to produce, a little easier to add content to, and a little more affordable for the fan down the line to get different versions if they needed to. Just kind of throwing that out there.
True. I would also say it sounds like what you're talking about is Kmart having exclusivity with artists specifically and how much it would cost them to do it with the artist. So the conspiracy I sort of have found in my entire research is that it seems that Target's contracts seem to be with the producers of these albums instead of the artists themselves.
Now, you did this by kind of digging through, okay, which artists? You started with Noah Kahan.
I've sort of known this for a while, is that I've sort of noticed Aaron Dessner has been a culprit of this for a while. So Aaron Dessner, he's the lead singer of The National, if you're familiar with The National.
Kind of, yes.
He started producing for Taylor Swift during, I think, her Folklore and Evermore era. So let me go to the next slide. Taylor Swift specifically started her exclusivity with Target, her second album. So she began this exclusivity before she even started working with these producers. And so she started adding these extra songs, presumably the same way Kmart started adding these extra songs. Mm-hmm. And so, a deal with the box store and the artist. But Taylor Swift is so big and she herself is a monopoly that I truly, truly believe that once she started sucking in these producers, that the producers also became a part of this monopoly.
Well, let's see, if I'm a producer and I could get in with Taylor Swift and stay in with Taylor Swift, the money that I could make would be incredible. You're going to do whatever you possibly can to bring me back again. Mm-hmm. Unless they're a diva. Then maybe you want to say, well.
But as these move forward, especially with Taylor Swift, she, I think, really mastered the process of multiple versions because she knew she had super fans that were out there that would buy whichever version she put out there. And, we joked earlier about being a completist. Steve, you and I are completists on a few things, as well as Katie. I think you tend to be too. But this takes it, I think, a little beyond the completist of saying I need every album by this artist to I need every version of everything that she puts out in this case. And so with that as the template, I think Swift is the artist in her agreement. And I looked for some info on this. There's not a lot of info to kind of back up what the money that we are talking about. But I would imagine, Steve especially, it would be in the millions. millions to get this kind of agreement between somebody of her stature and superstardom and a corporation the size of Target. That's got to be up there.
Absolutely.
I would also say, additionally, it's hard for the record stores to get every single one of these variants.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, even if they were available for the record stores, why would you stock, like, 5 or 6 of the same album in different variants?
Yep.
Like, someone isn't going to walk in and drop, like, $300 when they could get it all shipped to their house. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So, I have a cute little visual. And so I'm sorry to your audio listeners, but this is how the Target monopoly with producers I have envisioned. So at the center, you can imagine it like a pyramid scheme. At the center, you have Taylor Swift at the center. She began the monopoly. And then as you branch out in the circle, you have the producer Aaron Dessner, which we've talked about before. And then her second producer, Jack Antonoff, which has produced, I think, the last 2 or 3 of her last albums. And so she has worked with these producers the most in the last few years. And then on the next circle, you have all of the artists that these 2 producers have worked with. And then you have the Target monopoly.
Now, so you found, though, that these 2 producers in particular, other artists that they work with also tend to have Target exclusives with extra music.
Yes, that is exactly what I have found. So many, many, many of these artists that these 2 have worked with end up having Target exclusives with bonus songs. So these are just a few that I have found. You can see on here, there's Mumford & Sons. There's the Noah Kahan album I was talking about. There's Sabrina Carpenter, the 1975 Doja Cat, Lana Del Rey, Kendrick Lamar, just like every big artist you can think of. If they have worked with one of these producers, they have a Target exclusive album with extra songs. I'm not saying that they are exclusively with these producers. Let me make that clear, is that there are artists that have Target exclusive songs that have not worked with the producers. But you will see in just a second, I have some data that says they are the majority of what is in Target.
Okay.
You know, when I'm looking at that, obviously it also, these producers, especially the 2 we're talking about, they've been dealing with Target. They know then who to go to, so they can just go, man, I got this other artist I think it's going to be great. And Target might look, well, man, this producer's so successful. What he does is, look at how much money we made here. So yeah, let's bring this one on, and the connections are there, no doubt.
So when we talk about Target, I went to my local Target and I went and looked at every single Target exclusive record that they had in stock. Now, I will admit this was about a month ago. There could be more, there could be less right now. And you could probably do this as well, and they'll be completely different. This is just my local Target. And we went. And so I categorized all the records into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories. So the first category is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is her own category. There are so many Taylor Swift albums, and they have many variants there at Target. So she is her own category. Aaron Dessner are, records produced by Aaron Dessner or artists that have worked with Aaron Dessner. So my theory is that once they have worked with Aaron Dessner in the past, then they have a deal with Target and can continue to have that deal with Target, if that makes sense.
Well, he acts as kind of that inroad, as Steve mentioned, the building of relationships between the artist or the label, most likely the label and the corporation.
And then we have Jack Antonoff. So records produced by Jack Antonoff or artists that have previously worked with Jack Antonoff. And then I have none. Obviously, I was unable to find a link between this artist and production by Taylor Swift, Aaron Dessner, or Jack Antonoff. A reissue. And so these are artists that have been unaffiliated with their release. So I would categorize these people as like deceased artists, artists who no longer affiliated with these records. So like in here, I put like Paul McCartney and Wings. I don't feel like he's like very much affiliated with what happens with that record anymore. He just reissues it whenever he wants,
Well, and so many of the deceased now, either the foundations have them or record labels have some power. Look at Pink Floyd selling their stuff now
Yep.
to a record label.
Or the Prince
So,
estate.
yeah, or the Prince estate, exactly.
Absolutely. So it's very much just like a reissue, like somebody else owns this. It's not connected to the artist itself anymore. And then unknown, I cannot find any proof that the artist isn't affiliated with Taylor Swift, Aaron Dessner, or Jack Antonoff. So they could be or they could not be. I could not find any proof one way or the other.
So let me play the devil's advocate if I could on this too. This is basically the artists, the producers, the record labels, and the corporations coming together to say, we want to make more money off of all of us, and this is something that we can kick in there. And yeah, you're right earlier when you said that smaller stores, especially bigger independent stores, I'm sure can do that, but smaller stores like ours, you are absolutely correct. If there's 5 different versions of something, I'm going to ask the customers what they want and try to get just a few. I'm not going to go out and get a bunch of them hoping that people will come in and pick up every single one. But the super fans are out there. That is a given.
Jim, so you didn't go out and get all those variants of the Tori Amos album?
That's a great one. The Tori Amos that came out, there were, what did we say, 12 different versions?
Yeah, 12 versions.
12 versions.
Of the same record.
The only thing that was different was the cover. The vinyl was all the same, all black vinyl on the inside. There was a box set that put all 12 records in one box set, 12 versions of the same record. And I think, Steve, you and I talked about that. I feel that that's wasteful. And
it's wasteful.
Yeah.
You're right. It's wasteful.
What's scarier is some people bought it.
Yeah.
They thought, this is great. It's like, really?
I mean, you see posts online of people who, when a new Taylor Swift album comes out, they get all of these albums shipped to their door and the boxes are like this high.
Yeah, they come through and pick them up. Now, one of the other aspects of this that I wanted to bring up is, for the longest time, whenever we get into this discussion, I almost said argument, but discussion, because there are people on both sides, and there are Facebook groups, Steve, like the Michigan Record Club Facebook group. There's always going to be a post or something that'll raise the ire of somebody talking about how the big box exclusives, whether it be the Target, whether it be the Walmart, or any of the others, for crying out loud, I've seen Tractor Supply with records in there. They carry them once in a while.
Was that, nah, forget it. I can't think of Country Kitchen or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yes. Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. That's it.
That's where you're looking too.
Exclusive Cracker Barrel. I was like, really?
The argument tends to be, the point of discussion tends to be that for some reason, those versions, those exclusives are of a lesser quality. And again, you got people who say that, okay, the big box version of something sucks. Their sound quality is horrible. And my point of contention on that back would be, it's like, well, it's just essentially they're changing the color of the vinyl. It's not like they're using a different master or a different pressing capability. They're just changing the color of the vinyl and slapping an exclusive cover on there and writing a check back and forth to cover that portion of it. However, now that Katie has brought this up, this, I think, changes my thinking on this a little bit. Steve, when you mentioned earlier that the exclusives on compact disc, all right, no biggie. You added another couple of files to that disc. It's got a finite number of space, but you can still fudge it with the digital side. A vinyl record's a different animal. When you add more content to an already existing piece of vinyl, you then have to do some finagling to get those grooves to accommodate that larger amount of content. Unless you, of course, expand it to a double LP. And in these cases, Katie, I don't think a lot of these have been expanded to double LPs, like the Noah Khan.
Most of them are already double LPs.
They're already double LPs, so you're cramming, another 10 minutes of content onto an already scrunched up groove, which in some cases with certain players, and I got to be very careful here because I don't want to generalize your typical big box store shopper for vinyl. Somebody would frequent that over a record store. But I would think that the quality of the turntable they use would be of a lesser Again, I don't want to get too far in this, but you see where I'm going. These lesser quality turntables would have more difficulty with tighter packed groove
Yeah.
records.
I mean, even my turntable, which is like fairly good, and I would say a really like expensive, has trouble with some of these tighter packed records. Like the Taylor Swift album sometimes skips.
But again, I think what I'm getting to is, does that matter a great deal to someone who's going to get the exclusive just to have that version of it, or to get that version on top of the regular one that they already have?
Yeah.
Does it matter? And I don't think it does.
I don't think so. I think a lot of it, they're buying multiple copies. They have the one they play, and the other ones are just to have, put on the wall so everyone can see. Make
Steve,
a clock out of it.
You and I have never done that, have we?
No, not one bit.
There's a Pink Floyd one up there and a Rush clock behind me. So I'm at a loss here. I guess I don't want to fault the fan or the super fan for buying the things that they love, or buying the extra version.
What I do want to fault is Target.
Okay, explain, please.
Here's the makeup of how many records in Target are Aaron Dessner, Jack Antonoff, and Taylor Swift. It is nearly 50% of all of the records. The reissues are 25%, non-affiliated are about 30%. And then adding Jack Antonoff, Aaron Dessner, and Taylor Swift all together are about 50%.
And that's based on your observation of the stock.
And that is based on my local Target. So it could, again, be different for your guys' local Target. I'm not saying this is for everything.
So
but this is kind of crazy.
Well, they're giving precedent to the ones that they need their biggest return on investment from, is the way I see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about profit. If you're not making it, you're out of there. Yep.
But then how do you sell these records? Because they're clearly popular records and they clearly make money. But how do you sell them then as a record store owner if they're all stocking them exclusively?
Well, I can tell you, I am, as a record store owner, a smaller one, less likely to carry something that has not indie, but rather big box exclusives. I kind of learned my lesson on this with the last Greta Van Fleet release. There were 3 or 4 different versions of that came out. I got stuck with probably 15 of them because I overbought and nobody wanted it. There was even a listening party. And most of the people said, well, you already pre-ordered it from this store. I wanted that version because it's a cooler color. I wanted this version from their website proper. So when it comes down to it like that, if I know ahead of time that there's going to be multiple variations of a album that goes to big box stores, an indie exclusive, a band website version, then I am less likely to carry larger numbers of them because I know that the fans are going to go to look at other places. Is that something that's going to hurt us in the big, the long run? I don't think so. I'm just not getting that stock in. But that could also mean that I get a customer saying, well, why didn't you get this? But I haven't really had that experience.
Yeah. When you look at who shops your store, there is a younger crowd coming in, but the mall crowd is definitely a whole lot different.
Yes.
Or that hit the Target. They're not interested necessarily in your used vinyl. They're not necessarily interested in all these other artists. They have a focus. This is my artist. And they tend to go in there. It seems to be a different group. You get a bunch of old duffs like me.
looking for high-end collectibles, and where's that Elton record that I wanted to get?
I will say, as a younger collector, though, it's getting weird for me to go into record stores because then I try to go in and look at records. And people are like, well, what exactly are you looking for? And I'm like, nothing really. I'm here to browse. I'm here to collect. And they're like, well, are you sure? We got this, I'm like, no,
so
I'm not here for anything specific. I don't have a pickup with you. I am here to look.
You are of the generation where that type of shopping for records, I think, I would like to see that to be a comeback. And I've got younger customers here at the store that do that very thing. They want to discover That's unfortunately, I think, a lost art in a lot of cases. But there are some of you, and I'm heartened by the fact that you do that. And I love that I do get a certain amount of younger customers in here that like that experimentation, like Steve and I used to do back in the older days of record stores before there was even CDs.
I think a lot of discovery now is called Spotify.
True. You can back up your checking ahead of time and see what that's. And I'll get people that come in, they'll look at something on the shelf and they'll type in their phone and go like this and try to listen to a little bit of what it is. So it's a blind buy of sorts. Well,
I'm still pretty good at them blind buys, Jeff. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I'll just buy it.
What's your batting average with that then, Steve?
It's actually pretty good, but I'm pretty eclectic, so I'm an easy target.
Yeah, indeed.
As long as it's not the Moody Blues.
Ouch. All right. Well, Katie, this has been, I think, very interesting, and it's not as juicy as Elvis is still alive or something like that, but
I know you can't see the screen, but Steve can see the screen.
Yep.
Next time on the podcast, I'd like to talk about, did this guy die?
That's right.
Is Paul dead?
Is Paul dead?
And he's got that current documentary out, and he doesn't sound well.
Does he?
Yeah, there is one out. Yes, I haven't watched it.
Well, AI is pretty amazing.
It is.
They had it back then,
Yeah.
Great. So where do you folks stand on this? I mean, if you are set in your ways and you love shopping at smaller independent record stores or larger independent record stores, then the multiple variations and extra songs on a big box exclusive probably doesn't affect you much at all. Where it does affect is the younger collectors, who a lot of them are on, I think, more of a fixed budget, and they have to be fairly smart with how and what they buy. That's where this comes into play. And if you're so much of a super fan that you don't have much of that self-control, this could be, we joked earlier, Steve, about the gambling problems in the VC. I would tie that in a little bit to that. If you are that much of a super fan, you've got to learn to be able to control yourself with regards to what it is you're looking for. Katie, you're smart enough. You do the research. You know what you want. And do I really want that extra 2 songs of Noah Kahan Live? Because it'll be online eventually somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Someone will upload it to Spotify the same day. Or not Spotify, YouTube the same day. So, yes, I'll be sad that I don't get to, have it, but I don't need it.
All righty then. All right, Steve, any final thoughts on this? You miss the big box corporate environment enough to... No, you don't.
Nope, not one bit. Or let them do whatever. Jim, I know where I shop, and I'm happy.
All righty. Well, folks, chime in if you would. Please comment on this and let us know what you think. Does it affect you? Does it not bother you at all? I think it's just, if anything, Katie, I think it's a very interesting observation that you were able to pick up, that these producers, that you were able to narrow down and find that these producers are the ones that are possibly driving a lot of these relationships with the big box stores, especially Target.
And let me say it one more time. I love Aaron Dessner. Jack Antonoff is fine. I love Aaron Dessner.
And the work that he does. And
the work that he does.
And you have a Taylor Swift album, which is one more than Steve and I either of us have combined.
I have a Taylor Swift album. He's on, Aaron Dessner's on the new Mumford & Sons album. I love it. I'm so glad that he does good work.
Alrighty then. Well, you folks
be nicer to the record stores, guys, please. Just be a little nicer.
There we go. Think about us once in a while, would you? All right. You folks have been watching and or listening to Two Guys Talking About Records, Vinyl Community Podcast, today with our special guest, Katie. As always, daughter, it is so great to talk with you, and I am happy that you're still collecting records, and I'm still sending you records. How's that?
Yeah.
And next time I visit, we'll hit the new location of Eroding Winds and check them out and see what they've got floating around. So until next week, which, by the way, make sure you guys vote in that final 8 one more time. We'll get that out there, those links for our March Vinyl Madness. Steve and I will update, I think, the week after this, then we're down to the final 4, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Oh, boy.
We'll see where those predictions carry us. So until then, my name's Jim, and I own a record store.
I'm Steve. I'm a record collector.
I'm Katie. I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Who listens to records?
Yes.
Who listens to records?
All right. Bring that kid up right. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great week, Steve.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Katie.
Yep. You too.
Bye.